Hello again, Chris Lee, Blake Lovell at Southeastern 16 SEC basketball reaction. Blake, they counted them out 2 months ago. You don't do that to the Hogs. Here come the Hogs. Arkansas advances to the Sweet 16, a 75-66 winner over St. John's, the 2 seed, in a game that, boy, Max Barr had to love. Can we have a brief minute of silence for Max Barr?
What?
He's sick. Yes.
Oh, my goodness. You sound like the man's just about to not make it back to a live stream. Don't say it that way.
It's giving
Holy
this
cow.
man the respect he's due.
Wow.
A brief
Max
second.
will be back, everyone.
A brief pause to appreciate Max Barr because, Blake, this was his kind of game.
Well, all I got to say is don't let them Hogs get hot. How many times have we done this same live stream in the past 4 years? I feel like this is deja vu. We do one of these every March where it's like everybody counts out the Hogs. By the way, not me and Max Barr. We both picked them in the prediction video. Everybody counts them out. And we have done this so many times when they have been in the spot. And that's one of the reasons why both of us picked them. We're like, hey, every time you see this team with the Arkansas name on the jersey, they just always find a way. And yeah, I mean, it's wild, but here we are again. Arkansas is kind of the surprise of the Sweet 16. And again, how many times have we been there over the past several years? New coaching staff, all that stuff, doesn't matter. Yeah, I mean, that's it. Again, Zach, that's the whole point is, yes, they were Eric Musselman's teams, but now John Calipari's team just did it. So it's like, yeah, I mean, it's just kind of what they do. $5 super chat. We appreciate you, Zach. Yeah, it's an Arkansas thing. This is what they do. So tremendous stuff. I mean, what a game. Just that was, like we said, I think the one thing you were going to look at coming into this game, and I felt like this would be that the combination of St. John's offensively, which left some things to be desired, which is why I think a lot of us didn't pick them to make a deep run in this tournament. And the combination of two, I think, of just Arkansas not getting enough credit this year for their defense. And I think those kind of two things were played up here and got the job done. So,
I mean, what a game, too. I mean, Big Z fouls out with how many minutes left?
I don't even
like
remember.
11, 12 minutes. I mean, Kadari Richmond fouls out for St. John's, its best player. Then St. John's goes on a run to, I think, either take the lead or get close. And then Arkansas, I think the guy that I thought was really huge for them today, too, was Billy Richmond, Blake.
Mm-hmm. No, he was great. I think we said that going to this tournament. We were like, he had some of those. We said it's going to be someone like that. Like there are going to be guys like this throughout a tournament that are going to step up big and be the reason that they have a chance to make a run here. And I think that's how it worked out. I mean, he scored, I think we brought up the stat, he scored like at least 8 points and I think 5 straight games heading into the NCAA tournament. Only had 2 against Kansas, but I mean, he was playing pretty well. Like he had found his confidence, I think, offensively a bit. And so, yeah, made some big plays in this game. And by the way, you guys are coming in hot, so I'm going to try to star as many of these comments as I can, but to keep up. But, yeah, I mean, I think when you look at it from that standpoint, this was a good matchup for Arkansas. And I think we kind of said that. Whoever won that game between Arkansas and Kansas, you felt like from an offensive standpoint that they had a shot because I just think, again, that the one thing we picked on St. John's for is we said it's just a team offensively that struggles sometimes, and if they're not shooting the ball well, I mean, they had their best player on the bench because he was, 3 of 17 from the floor. And so, I mean, yeah, like that's what it came down to is he wasn't getting anything easy. Arkansas was defending, and I think, again, by the way, I know everyone's bringing up the officiating. Boy, that was that game was wild. There were calls on both ends, and I was just like, what in the world was that? But beyond that, I mean, don't worry too, Carter. We'll get to the question about looking up at the next matchup. But yeah, I mean, for now though, Arkansas rightfully won the game. Like that, they were the better team, and I think that's what it came down to. So
Yeah, I think that was always going to be a hard game to call. But I mean, St. John's is a physical blue collar team, and boy, it met its match in Arkansas today. But by the way, another subplot of this, throwback to old school John Calipari, Arkansas's 2 leading scorers today were freshmen.
Good point. Yeah, how about that, right? That's maybe that's why people were asking, well, why didn't Cal do this the past couple of years in Kentucky? Maybe that's all he needed. He just needed to get back to the roots of getting some freshmen taking over the thing. So, yeah, but that was certainly the case. But let's get to some comments here. You guys want to jump in? We'll get to some of your reaction, and we'll of course keep talking about this game a bit more. But we turn it over to you when it comes to these kind of shows. Again, Arkansas fans, you're used to this now with us in March. We've done this with you guys the past several years now in some of these. But all right, let's look at. And by the way, I love this comment from Justin earlier. Justin said, "Bro, I took a nap at noon. Told my girlfriend to wake me up to watch the Hogs game. Missed the whole game. And only got to watch the final 1:30. Uh-oh, Justin.
Justin.
Oh, no. Brutal.
Well, Justin, that's why you have us.
That's brutal. Well, hopefully you can find the replay. I think you'll be able to find that very soon. Replay somewhere. But let's see what else we got. I just hated that. Unbiased Brim's here. $2 super chat. Unbiased Brim at the games. The official hashtag good luck charm Brim. The Hogs win. Once again, Unbiased Brim coming through. Providence is going hog wild right now. And by the way, how about this from John? Don't forget, folks, Arkansas is advancing to the Sweet 16. Chris, you know what that means? I think there's a little possibility we may be at more full strength for the Hogs in that Sweet 16 game next week.
Yeah, because there was some chatter that Thero could play, was there not?
Mm-hmm.
I mean, ended up not happening, but yeah.
Yeah. So that's it. Keep that in mind. So, yeah, I think that's something to think about. So, yeah, boy, think about that potential. No matter who they play, and we'll talk about the potential matchup in a second. But having Thero back would be very interesting. So, yeah.
How much do you think having Boogie Fland back helped them today? I know the stat line for him wasn't great, but just another guard to handle the physical stuff that St. John's will do to you, another depth piece alone. I mean, I think that had to be worth more to them than showed in the box score.
No, I agree. And by the way, Blaine brought this up, said the guy on the field of 68 called this upset. Hey, we got to give Max Barr and myself a little credit too in the prediction video. We were on the Hogs for this one. And I think we were on the going into this tournament. I think we all said that. We said it didn't matter who won this 7-10. You felt like they had a good chance. And as we talk about the matchups, like I think this was a good matchup for either team. But I mean, Boogie Fland, remember, Chris, all the talk coming in this tournament was about, oh no, is Boogie Fland going to come out and mess up the chemistry and all this other stuff? Like we just have said, come on now. Like this guy, having him on the floor, he's going to force other teams to defend you differently. It's going to open up stuff for everyone else because they got to respect what he can do with the ball in his hands. And I think, it's kind of one of those scenarios where just by having him on the floor, he had a smooth three there at one point. I don't remember when it was. I know he didn't have his best game shooting-wise, but again, just having him out there, that allows guys like Richmond and Knox and those guys to get more probably opportunities because the defense has to, there's one other player now they got to zone in on. And so, yeah, I mean, I think that's kind of what it comes down to. And that's what we said. If you get Thero back, then what do you do? Then how do you defend this team where you've got all these guys playing well? And certainly the foul trouble was a big, topic of discussion coming out of this one because it seemed like every 2 minutes somebody else was in foul trouble. But still, I mean, that, like we said earlier, that's where having the freshmen step up, that's where having at least one more guy, but like having Boogie Fland was essential here because having that extra guy being in foul trouble, like what happens if he's not available, right? And it's just, it's one of those things where and that's why I'm getting a little, a little intrigued by the idea that what happens in the Sweet 16 if they got to do Thero back, and all of a sudden we finally see this team at full strength, which we didn't see a lot of early in the season. Man, I mean, bracket starts to open up a bit at that point. So,
well, I always say injuries are a blessing if you can deal with them, and this is one place where that's particularly the case because Trayvon Brazile and Jonas Adu have played far and away their best ball in Arkansas uniforms the last couple of weeks. Arkansas would not be here without the contributions of both those guys. And now if you get Thero back, in addition to those guys, you got more fouls to give. You've got, as we said earlier, your freshmen stepping up. Now you got 2 point guards. Look, I still think, not to look too far, I still think Florida is a problem for anybody and everybody.
Sure.
But, like, if you get them all healthy on the right night, they are on the short list of teams that could pull that off.
Yeah, I mean, that's like we said. It's just we started the year talking about the health of Arkansas and all that, and then eventually, we're sitting here in this point where once again we look up, they're in the Sweet 16, and now you've kind of got that scenario like we said where it's kind of deja vu. All right, this is Arkansas, different staffs, we said different players, all that, but it's Arkansas with momentum in March, and now we're sitting here looking at the situation where it's like, man, and they brought up the stat too. I know Shane brought it up there in the comments. St. John's wound up shooting 28% in this game. I think the stat was something like teams in the NCAA tournament in the last 65 or something like that shot worse than 30% were like 3-62 or something in the NCAA tournament. I mean, which makes sense, right? But you just felt like, come on, like Arkansas, just make the plays. You can't lose this one when the other team's shooting that poorly. And so, I mean, two teams combined, Chris, to go 4 of 41 from three. It was not everybody in the comments, the Max Barr type game. Come on now. I don't even think Max Barr, is going to be happy about a 4 for 41 combined 3-point total. He's the bully ball expert, but even Max would probably tell us it's a little too extreme on that. So, yeah, I think wow.
There were 96 rebounds in this game.
Yeah,
96.
I love that. 28 offensive rebounds for St. John's. Like, it's absurd. But Arkansas had 16. Like, and that's just,
I was going to say, how many of those offensive rebounds were immaterial because they still couldn't convert?
No.
Like, Arkansas's height really bothered them.
Have you ever seen a team? Here's a wild stat that I think we've got to find someone to research. Has a team ever shot the same percentage as they had offensive rebounds?
Oh, man.
I mean, seriously, think about that. Has there ever been a team that has shot the exact same percentage as the number of offensive rebounds they had in the game?
Well, I know where I'd start to fact check that, don't you?
There can't be.
Since it's the one on in front of me right now.
Well, that could be true. Now that's this current game.
What we needed. We need an Arkansas A&M meeting in this tournament. That's what we need.
Man, yeah. I mean, and look, Jared brings up a point here. Like St. John's, they were just missing.
Yeah,
point blank stuff too. Like, yeah. That was the concern.
Lewis missed like 7 layups. His first 7 layups, was that the stat?
Man, that was wild.
I mean, it was what he was so rattled. Did you see the pep talk they had to give him in the middle of the game of the second half?
I mean that's your Big East Player of the Year, right? I mean,
right.
I can understand. Yeah. So, no, I know, but I mean, look, that's what we say. Like this time of year, hey, you need a lot to go right, and St. John's they could not get a lot to go right in this game, and it didn't help that Arkansas was playing well, right? And I mean, that's the thing. And so even though, again, it's not like we're going to expect Arkansas to come out and go 15 of 30 from three every game. They're going to have games where they may go 2 of 19, but they made up for it. Again, I think with just some of the defensive plays they made to make it harder on a team that already was their confidence, as you just said. Like, as that game's going along, St. John's confidence is not getting higher. It just keeps getting lower because they're just like, we cannot make a shot. And so Arkansas just kept it felt like they kept attacking, knowing that they just weren't making shots from outside. They kept finding ways to get to the free throw line, and just going at them. And I think that's what you had to do, especially with how the game was called. Like, it really was. Well, I know people, again, continue to talk about the officiating, but it's like, I mean, yeah, it's just kind of one of those things where this was a weird game. And a lot of things that Arkansas needed to do to win, they did it. And St. John's, every opportunity they seemingly had, I mean, even ones like you're going to look back at the free throw line, right, and think, all right, well, we missed 9 free throws. And that, too, didn't help, especially a couple down the stretch there where maybe if they make 1 or 2 of those, all of a sudden, how you defend the next possession or whatever changes, but couldn't make those either. And so, yeah, something. So
I'm trying to wait for ESPN to post the minutes to the box score, because here's my question. You get Thero back. How many minutes do you get him, and where do you take them from? Because what's working for them, what they've got going for them, obviously they are a better team with Thero playing. We all know that. But you got to take some minutes away from some guys that are playing pretty well when you bring him back too.
Well, I mean, and I think the matchup's going to be important here, because think about it. They're going to play 2 different teams. Like, I mean, we've talked about Drake, right? Like, Drake is the ultimate. I mean, we're not going to break the game down yet. We're going to find out and see who wins first. But, like, we know what Drake does. And then you look on the other side and you're like, there's Texas Tech, who also is going to play at a little bit of a slower tempo. But these are 2 fascinating teams in terms of their profile. So where you take the minutes from probably depends on which of these matchups you get. Because like you said, you're going to have Thero on the floor. If he's 100%, you're going to have Thero out there as many minutes as you can get him, because, he's just going to bring a lot of those things to the table, that he just has a different profile than anyone else on the roster. And he's going to bring a lot of different things. So, yeah. So I think that's going to come into it. And I think it's brought up in the comments here too. And I think we talked about this in some of the game previews when we talked about these teams in particular. Yeah, I mean, both those teams, Drake and Texas Tech, aren't exactly the biggest teams in the world. So you think about how you match up and all that kind of stuff, that's going to come into play too. So,
But Drake can really get after you on the glass.
Sure, they're just not the biggest team, but they'll get after you on the glass. Yeah.
Yeah, they also built up a lot of those numbers against teams that don't have the athletes they're going to see if it gets to Arkansas, which I'm not sure it's going to get to Arkansas because Texas Tech is first, which would be a totally different kind of matchup. So
they had 9 offensive rebounds against Missouri. And so I don't mean what that means. I don't know, but just that's worth noting on that. So, but we'll see. Arkansas fans in the comments, which team would you rather play? Would you rather play Drake or Texas Tech? Weigh in. Let us know in the comments. We always ask these questions when we start to look ahead to these kind of matchups. So, yeah. But all right, let's get to some other chats here. Big Poppy, $5. Never forget, it all started with kicking Kentucky's butt. It may not go over well with Kentucky fans, but that is kind of where the charge started for the Hogs. Zach, $2 super chat, the potential Arkansas-Texas Tech game. Zach says, sheesh, yeah, that would be, I think it'd be an interesting matchup. There's no doubt about it there in this one. So, $5 super chat from Dance Colin Dance. Bro needs to leave the girl immediately. How dare she lets him miss his team's game? Listen, I don't know that we should be taking advice from the chat, so don't put that on us. But that is what Dance Colin Dance here is gonna suggest. But
not to be confused with Dance King.
No, yeah, we have the Dance King too out there, but it's a different one. $2 super chat here. Long timer, probably been around for several of these actually that we've done over the past 4 years. Beat them by more points than they lost by all year. That was the thing we came in. That was the stat. Max brought it up, and if you combine it all together, what do they combine? St. John's had 4 losses coming in this game by combined 7 points, and Arkansas wins it by 9. There's just again one of those statistical things where wild. So yeah. But anyways, so. All right. By the way, Carrie, this is not true. I want to make sure we are all aware of this. You guys may have missed the prediction video. What we picked in our bracket was not what we picked when we started to go into it. We always make the right to change our picks once the tournament starts. We did our preview video yesterday for Arkansas St. John's. We all picked Arkansas. We just said we thought it was a good matchup. So don't put that on Max Barr. Don't put it on him. The voiceless man, Max Barr, right now. Don't put that on him. He picked the Hogs.
Did he lose his voice?
Yeah, he's lost his voice. He's been under
That's
the weather.
your job.
He lost his voice. It wasn't sounding well in the prediction videos we did this morning. So we're giving Max some time off here. But a lot of comments coming in on who Arkansas fans want to play. Wants Drake all day here. That's one part of it. We got some people saying they'd rather have Texas Tech. Matthew says, doesn't matter who we play. We're the Hogs. Hudson's going to go Drake on this one. I think this is a good point. Like, I don't think it's an easy matchup either way because you've got two teams that have some pretty clear strengths in terms of how they've gotten here. And so Drake is you said it, Chris. I mean, the way Drake plays, I don't think anyone would love to play Drake. But
throw out the analytics with Drake. It's hard to just describe how much they can screw you up and take you out of any kind of rhythm. I mean, you just have to see it to get it.
Yeah. By the way, Hudson said earlier, Arkansas versus Florida in the Elite Eight would feed families. Yeah, they feed our families. We are actively rooting for that possibility. So you are 100% correct on that. If you guys want us to feed our families, root for Arkansas versus Florida in the Elite Eight. The Gators got to get by the Huskies first. By the way, everybody weighing in on the old alarm clock scenario here. Everybody set an alarm clock, all this other stuff. My goodness. Awesome stuff. So
this takes me back to remember when they beat Gonzaga?
Oh yeah.
This feels like that day with Flying Blind and Rusty and all the legends folks here. We need those guys back. Come on, where are you guys today? This is the first place you come to celebrate. You know that.
Yeah, of course. Everybody knows we come through when the Hogs get a big win. $5 super chat here. Deserve to win that based on the calls alone. Can we call ref bias? Bias against Arkansas in almost every sport. Well, I didn't think they had their best game today. I'll say that. So, by the way, Jeremy wants Drake. He wants to face the smaller of the two around the rim. I don't think that's a bad idea either. It's just, the style of Drake is interesting. So, but anyways. All right, let's keep it going here. I know you guys, we could chat for an hour. We probably won't do that because we do have to get to Texas A&M, Michigan, watch that because we'll be doing something most likely after that game as well. I think when you look at, and they said on the broadcast, but you really have to put it in perspective here of what Arkansas has accomplished. Like, that team was 0-5 in SEC play. Everybody, probably me included, some of us included, I'm sure, said, we were bringing up the Torvik percentages of them to make the tournament. It was like single digits, and it just looked like there was no path. Not just 0-5, 1-6, and you're just sitting there thinking, man. But then, like the guys said a minute ago, I mean, it kind of started with that Kentucky game. You're like, okay, is this something that changes the trajectory of their season? And then you start to pile up a couple wins, get a little bit more confidence, and even in some of those losses, right? They lose the home game to Alabama, made a valiant effort at the end there to have a chance to win that game. Lost by 8 at Texas A&M, didn't play bad there. Lost by 7 at Auburn, had their chances too. Like, that's when Auburn's still clicking, right? And so, outside of just that one game where just everything that could go wrong went wrong at South Carolina, Arkansas from that Kentucky game on felt like a team that you did not want to have any part of, because you knew that they were starting to find whatever it is that they were missing. And like we said, I think that's where the health aspect, Cal, we even in Kentucky, we're like, okay, I know they lost tournament games. I get all that. But his teams usually played so well at this point, that February to March type thing. And then, of course, the NCAA tournament, hey, I get it. But, man, I think, it is kind of one of those things where you're looking up now and it's like, we saw some of these signs a month and a half ago, and little did we know it would wind up being here where they beat Kansas and St. John's. Kansas, by the way, as we said, number one in the country, whatever many games into the season they were. And now they just beat a team that, was 30-4, 31-4, whatever, that had lost by a combined 7 points all season. Those are the two teams that Arkansas just beat to get to the Sweet 16.
Let's rewind to when the calendar flipped to January. They're 1-6 in the league. They've already gotten their LSU road game out of the way, lost that. They were 4 of their first 7 at home. 4 of those games were at home. And you're staring down at Kentucky, at Texas to start off. And they won both those. That's where it started. But, I mean, I'm just looking back through this again. You brought up the stats and how improbable this was. I mean, to go back and start that at Kentucky. Sorry, Kentucky fans. But that is really where all this started to come together.
Nope. No, it did. That's kind of where they turned the corner because, look, hey, we were featured on the Vice documentary on Cal for that game. My voice in there talking about how tough it was going to be. And I think Max got a little run in that. You got a little run in that, Chris, in the early going of that second episode of the Vice documentary on Cal. It was us previewing the Kentucky game. We're like, man, this is such a tough spot. How could we not pick Kentucky? So, in a way, perhaps, Chris, you have contributed to this turnaround. Look at it that way.
Yep.
Maybe that's how you should look at it.
That's why we're here.
We appreciate the Vice people adding us in there because maybe that's all it took was for that to happen. And that is the run that the Arkansas Razorbacks have gone on. So, yeah.
I feel like there's been a lot of receipt keeping with the 3 of us this year.
Oh, geez. Are you kidding me? Like,
I mean, it's a lot of sports
wrong,
too.
Please. Yeah, let's watch it. Let's watch the rest of the day and see how many we get right. Let's just go there. Right. So we can take our victory lap on the Hogs here, but let's see how many more we get right today or the rest of this round. Because I'm telling you, the SEC got some tough matchups in this round, which we did describe. So
another fair point. Davis has been much better when he's been healthier. I don't know, hit 13 points today, but what he does so well, Blake, is he finds a space, he uses angles, he'll hit those short shots, and that's a lot of what he brings them. And yeah, the health of him, Adu's health. I mean, this is a team. I mean, think about this. Next week against whoever that's going to be, will this maybe be the healthiest Arkansas has been all year?
Yeah, I think so. Knock on wood. Make sure there's nothing coming out of this game. But yeah, I think this should be. If Thero's ready to go, if he's, I wouldn't say 100%, but if he's, whatever, if he's good to go, where he can play his normal allotment of minutes, even if he's still a little banged up or whatever, like this will be the first time I feel like this season where they are exactly where we thought they could be in terms of like this is their roster, everyone's potentially available. And if that's the case, in this kind of setting, like, yeah, it's going to be interesting. No matter who, it's going to be interesting. By the way, Chris, we didn't miss your super chat. I'll get to it here shortly. Don't worry, we got it in there. Shout out to Rodney, loving the show, loving the Razorbacks. Shout out to Rodney there on that. But all right, let's get to Chris's $5 super chat here. It says, give Thero Big Z's minutes. How many minutes did Big Z play? I mean, I think that's an option. Sure.
Yeah.
I think, Big Z played 10 minutes in this game and fouled out. But, I mean, at the end there, they just basically said, we're keeping you in. If you foul out, you foul out. Which, that was kind of the position they were in. They didn't really have another choice. So
that is really the only discouraging thing about them lately. He had been so good for them in that run. And for about the last 5 or 6 games, he just has not been a factor at all.
Yeah. Well, I mean, again, that's where I think matchup-wise, too. It's going to depend on who you play and those kind of things. The final numbers you had, DJ Wagner played 34, Brazil played 30, Davis played 28, Richmond played 29, Knox 27, Adu played 22. Of course, he was in foul trouble. Boogie Fland played 20, Big Z played 10. So,
yeah, I mean, you could shave 4 or 5 here and there from several guys without just killing what they do. And Big Z is the logical place. But I mean, like you said, there's still a use for him because he's a completely different player than anything else they have. Like you could sit him for a whole half, and then you get in a spot where you need somebody to hit pop out and hit threes from the perimeter, which he can do. So I mean, I think that's just another way that you can use your pieces really wisely.
Well, as Lucas says here, and I know Lucas said, I saw the comment, Lucas,
Yeah.
you said we've been hating on the Hogs all year. Listen, we were hating on the Hogs when they were 0-5 in SEC play. I'm not going to deny that. But guess what? The Hogs have gotten out the fishing pole. They've cast it into the ocean, Chris. And there we are. They're just reeling us back in. Just reeling us all the way back in. But no, Lucas is right here. It's about the matchup, I think, in that scenario. So
did you see Cal's wife when the game was winding down?
Oh yeah, emotional. I mean, they said a broadcast, and Cal said it like one of the more rewarding seasons, and I'd have to believe him in that scenario because again, you did have a team that felt like it was just completely deflated in January, and we just looked at it and said, "Man, how do they turn this thing around?" And they did. So I absolutely you know what these coaches go through throughout an entire season. How many hours they put in. We know how much it goes into it. And so to see his team like this turn it around the way they have, get to the Sweet 16, and for him too, right? I mean, again, think about all the discussion we've had over the past several years with Cal at Kentucky in the first round and the tournament disappointments and all that. And here we go with a team that looked like it wasn't even going to be in the tournament. Had, single-digit % chance to make it probably a month and a half ago. And now here they are, 2 wins away from the Final Four. So, yeah. That's
okay,
sports,
I'm gonna throw one more thing at you, too. Since the time he took over at Kentucky, which was what year now?
Boy, when was that?
10?
A long time ago. 10, maybe?
Right, give or take a year or two. Like, you get to this point, you haven't even met expectations yet. Fair? Like, if you lose in the Sweet 16 at Kentucky, that is a disappointment.
Sure.
In a year.
Yeah.
I feel like at this point, you could argue, based on all they've been through, that they're kind of playing with house money. I mean, this might be the first postseason game he's had in 15 years where it feels like the pressure's kind of off him. Is that fair?
Oh, I mean, I think Chris brings up a good point here. It's like probably going through some BS at the end of his Kentucky tenure, and this change has done him well. I think, like we said, we know what the state of things were this time last year, right? I mean, remember the conversations we're having about him specifically last year and all that stuff. And now you can understand the emotion if you look up a year later and you're like, this is where they are now. Because remember, we said if he stayed at Kentucky, what was going to happen this year? They could have went 34-1 in the regular season. But guess what? Would not have mattered until they got to this. Like, everybody would have kept saying the same thing. Well, all right, great. They went 34-1, but let's see if they win a tournament game. Let's see if they win 2 tournament games. They got to win the whole thing, right? That would have been the setup. And we know Arkansas fans, listen, say what you want, again, about the previous coaching staff or whatever, but, I mean, during the highs, they were very high. Like, the highs were very high. And that sort of put you in a position where, all right, Arkansas is back. Like, they're back to that program, mid-90s. Yeah. We talk about the success, all that stuff. So, that's the expectation for them. And I think that also has to be rewarding for Arkansas fans to look up and say, hey, we know that this was not the smoothest season in terms of consistency. There were a lot of ups. There were a lot of downs. Like, the ups are coming now. There are a lot of downs along the way. So I think even they are probably, can appreciate the way he has turned this around, and even to say, all right, from here on out, we would like it to be a little bit better to where, we're not sitting there sweating whether we're going to make the tournament and all this other stuff. But I do believe that this is something where we said when it happened, there is a chance it's going to benefit both parties given the situations for both at the time. And now I think, look at this. I mean, they're having success in the tournament, and that's what everybody judges you on. And if anybody knows that any better, it's John Calipari, based on how his tenure went at Kentucky. So, yeah, props to them for making it happen. So,
well, and it's different, but the change of scenery scenario. Rick Barnes is another perfect example in the league. The expectations just got out of hand at Texas. He'd done some really great things. Good things / great things, depending on how you look at it. I think when you go to the tournament, 16 out of 17 years, that's a great tenure. But it had run its course, and they moved on, and that one worked out well for him, and you just kind of nailed it, so I won't repeat it anymore. But, man,
well,
what a fun story to watch.
Yeah. Shout out to Dante here earlier. Said, followed Cal from Kentucky. Can't be more proud of him. You're not going to see a ton of people necessarily that will say that.
No.
Although our chat is pretty good about that. But yeah, I think that there is a mutual respect there when it comes to some of the things that they accomplished. All right, we're going to get some quick super chats. Then we're going to hop off because, again, we have to get our eyes, which we do have our eyes on right now. I'm watching it on the side of the screen here. But got to go get some more thoughts on A&M Michigan. A&M's up 4, about 6.5 to go in the first half. Braden, $5 super chat. Just means more to Braden, part of the membership tier. Finally seeing the Hogs that we thought was possible to begin the year. Yep, underrated 10 seed. And that's why tournament's all about matchups. And, St. John's, I thought, did not have a great matchup either way in this second round. Zach, $2 super chat. Terrified for his Auburn Tigers. Help. Don't worry, Zach. I put a Creighton money line bet in on just to make sure that you get what you need today. We know my reverse SEC mojo bets. I made sure to go all in on those today. So guess what, Chris? St. John's was the bet. Boom.
Oh,
throw that money in the toilet, and I'm okay with that because we got to get the SEC marching on to the Sweet 16. So I'm doing everything I can from the picks and mojo standpoint because I did look up and remember too that Max and I picked Arkansas as the underdog, both of us, and I said, "Uh-oh, I got to do something to prevent the old Southeastern 16 kiss of you-know-what." So,
might you said there's a madness to the method?
There may be a little madness to that method. That is absolutely true. All right, and then $5 super chat here. Still love us. We appreciate you for that. Hope Arkansas wins, but somehow when again, I don't see them beating Florida. Yeah, that will be a tough matchup if that happens.
Yeah.
That was a interesting game when they played the first time around, but again, both teams in completely different places from where they were then. It would be a lot of fun for us. We really are rooting for that matchup, as you know. But listen, Florida's got to get through UConn first. Not going to be an easy game either. When we talk about the ones here, even the twos, these. I want to see what these top seed teams do because they don't have the easiest matchups, I think, in the second round. So my thoughts on that. All right, woo pig. There you go. So, there you have it. All right. By the way, we're going to end on this one since we're continuing this theme. A month ago, your friend bet you $20 that the ACC will have more teams in the Sweet 16. You laughed and accepted it. Yeah, I don't know what that was. Was your friend thinking it's the mid 90s or what?
Right?
Because that's the easiest bet you'll ever accept, I think. But yeah. Anyways. Well, we'll see, though. Listen, there's only one so far. There's no guarantee the SEC is going to get another until people win games. So let's not get too carried away. But the ACC can only get one. So at worst, you're going to get a push on that one. Yeah. All right, we're out of here. We got to go watch A&M. The Aggies.
Yes, Aggies in Michigan will be here for that. And everything else tonight, just be sure to the subscribe button. Enable your notifications.
Quickly, Chris.
Bracket
bids. Don't forget about bracket bids.
bids.
Hope you guys are enjoying things over there. The Pick'em contest, the auction draft league. Check them out. Bracketbids.com. Check out everything. Again, we always tell you, support our friends over there and what they do at Bracket Bids. So, yeah, download the app. Visit them, bracketbids.com.
I put in four teams at Bracket Bids. It's a salary cap system. And I had Florida, had Houston, I had Ole Miss at the price, and I think the other one was, it was San Diego.
San Diego, huh?
San Diego.
By the way, we'll be back after A&M Michigan.
Yep.
So we're going to – the goal is to do a reaction for every game today. Now, I'm going to say that with a caveat of depending on what time Tennessee UCLA starts tonight.
Oh, boy.
We'll see because some of you people may be in bed by the time that game is over. That may not end until midnight, depending on when it starts, because that's also going to depend on how long Auburn-Creighton goes. So TBD on that. We'll come back maybe tomorrow morning, do a little quick early reaction, something like that. We're just letting you know up front. Nothing against Tennessee. It's has a lot to do with the start date and start time and everybody's schedule. So keep that in mind. Turn on your notifications so you know when we go live. We're going to watch the Aggies.
We are going to watch the Aggies. Watch along with us when it's over. Again, hit the subscribe button. That's free. And enable your notifications so you know when we do. We got our eyes on football, baseball, and basketball here at Southeastern 16. For Chris Lee, Blake Lovell, and the temporarily departed Max Barr, thanks for watching. We'll see you again soon.